Hey everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to do another constructed set review of the Brothers War, this time for the black cards. I don't give any of the cards ratings, instead I'm going to pick out the cards that I think are going to make a splash in constructed, and just talk about their role. So let's jump into it. So first we're going to start off with sort of the premier black mythic, Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. It's 3 mana, 1 generic, 2 black, legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It's a 3/3, and it says whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. And you can pay 7 mana, so 4 generic, 3 black, to discard X cards and exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. This card's insane. This card is exactly what like the mono black devotion decks in Pioneer and Standard have been wanting. Even not devotion, just the mono black aggro decks, that's exactly what they've been wanting. Right, you curve out, do one of the 2 or 3 solid aggressive black 1-drops. Either level up the 1-drop, play like Tenacious Underdog or something like that. And then Gix, like, if you have a resilient 1-drop, resilient 2-drop Gix, they then have to dump removal spells into your resilient cards, or you start drawing cards and you bury them. Like, mono black aggro is gonna be dope, man. Like, this card's so good. And if like you go way to the late game and have like some number of cards in your hand, like, you don't even have to sacrifice it or even tap it. You just like pay 7 mana, discard X cards. Like, okay, whatever, man. Like, it's very good. This card's so good, so good. It's got crazy card advantage. Like, might even be a 4 of in the decks because it'll just be a different game for mono black aggro when you draw them. Diabolic Intent caused a lot of mess on Twitter. It's a 2 mana sorcery for 1 generic, 1 black. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. This card's insane. Like, it's so good. It's the thing is, you don't want to do this unless, 1, you have disposable creatures, and 2, you have stuff to get out. So this is a deck that has disposable. So this is going to be played in basically every deck in Standard and Pioneer, and will probably find its way into Modern as well. That if you A, have disposable creatures, and B, like, need to hit some sort of payoff card. So I don't know where it'll make its way into Modern. I have a hard time picturing it, but it probably will. This is a super cheap tutor. But I could see this being played in Abzan and Pioneer. I could see this being played in the Sack deck in Pioneer, because both of those decks have, by Abzan, I mean Abzan Greasefang. Both of those decks have cards that you need for payoffs and disposable creatures. This deck is going to make Pioneer much more powerful and totally change the metagame, I think. And similarly in Standard, like, I'm sure there are combo pieces in Standard that this will just make decks like actually consistent. Diabolic Intent is definitely something to keep your eye on, and maybe like the big black card that is being printed. Gix's command is 5 mana sorcery. It's 2 black, 3 generic. It says choose 2. Put 2 +1/+1 counters and up to 1 target creature. It gains lifelink until end of turn. Destroy each creature with power 2 or less. Return up to 2 creature cards from a graveyard to your hand. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the highest power among creatures they control. So I think this could be played in, like, I don't think this will make its way into Pioneer or Modern or anything, but I could see this being played in like slow black decks, maybe even control decks. It's an easier to cast card than Invoke Despair. It just seems like kind of a weaker, almost an Invoke Despair effect. But you don't play this so slow. Like, for the destroy each creature with power 2 or less, sacrificing a creature with the highest power among creatures they control. I could totally see playing this card like maybe as a sideboard card for like a sort of black sweeper for these like super low to the ground decks. As you can just like, a lot of these low to the ground decks play like 1 or 2 cards, that are 3 or 4. So you can just be like, kill everything power 2 or less, you sacrifice your highest power creature, and like, it's really good. All in all, I think this is kind of weak. I definitely don't think this is going to be like a super staple in Standard, but I could see this card in some sideboards. Hostile Negotiations is a 4 mana instant that costs 3 generic, 1 black. It says exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile. Then exile the top 3 cards of your library in another face-down pile. You look at the cards in each pile, then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You lose 3 life. So this is black Fact or Fiction. Like, this card's like really, really cool. Like, so you get 3 cards no matter what. Or the 3 cards in each pile are random. And then you get to make a decision of what you want your opponent to see, and then your opponent gets to choose. Unfortunately, if you give your opponent any choice at all, it makes the card a little less powerful. But as an instant, you know, you're playing a black-based control deck, maybe like Esper or something. You know, wait till end of turn, like Hostile Negotiations, Black Fact or Fiction. I don't know if it's better than Memory Deluge. Like, it probably isn't, especially since Memory Deluge has flashback. But just like black mid-range decks, like maybe Memory Deluge number 5 or 6 or something like that. This card's super cool. I like this card a lot. I mean, especially when Memory Deluge cycles out a year from now, I could totally see Hostile Negotiations making a giant splash. Just like Card Advantage, 4 mana, 3 cards for 4 mana. Holy moly, that's crazy. At instant speed, Misery Shadow is a 2 mana, 1 black, 1 generic shade. If a creature an opponent controls die, exile it instead. And you can pay 1. Misery Shadow gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It costs 2. It's kind of a cool, aggressive card. Maybe in Pioneer, this card could be played as hate for, you know, the mono black aggro deck against, like, you know, the Cauldron Familiar decks, or maybe even mono green because the homies do stuff when they die. I don't expect to see this card super widespread. I could see it as maybe a sideboard card, or maybe like main deck hate in the black aggressive deck. Painful Quandary is 5 mana, 2 black, 3 generic enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. What awesome, like, what a trump card for like these slower like mirror matches and stuff like that. My only issue with this card is that it does not affect the board. So you need to be in parity or ahead on board for this card to be good. But if you are, it can just seal the deal. It's possible this is a win more card, but it's also possible that this is just sideboard card in these black mid-range mirrors, or, you know, if any like black-based control decks pop up where you just like windmill slam it on turn 5 and it's a must counter or you die. And I love that. Dreams of Steel and Oil is a 1 black sorcery where target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an artifact or creature card from it, then choose an artifact or creature card from their graveyard. Exile the chosen cards. You know, 1 mana Thoughtseize effect for creatures or artifact cards is probably powerful, coming out of a set with a lot of awesome artifacts, being able to hit creatures. This might even end up being a main deck card, but I could foresee this being a sideboard card, maybe even like for like Reanimator decks as well. Like, just imagine this in, you know, I'm talking standard, but imagine this in Pioneer as a sideboard card for like Greasefang, if Greasefang becomes super powerful, you know, alongside Diabolic Intent. You know, they like turn 1 or 2, like mill a bunch of stuff, they hit Parhelion, you're like, oh, here we go. Dreams of Steel and Oil, take the Greasefang from your hand, exile Parhelion, go. Like, that seems disgusting. Go for the Throat. It's an awesome reprint. I really like this art. Is 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 black, instant, destroy target non-artifact creature. The reality is, even though there's a lot of artifacts being printed, there are going to be plenty of decks that don't run artifacts, or you run majority, not artifacts and stuff. So Go for the Throat is just sort of the Doomblade of the format. Card's awesome because it'll be played a ton in standard. Gruesome Realization is 3 mana, 2 black, 1 generic sorcery. It says, choose 1. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, or creatures your opponent control get -1/-1 till end of turn. I think it's kind of a cool, maybe sideboard card if token decks become widespread. You know, if there's a lot of token support in any future sets, I could definitely see this as a sideboard card in either black mid-range or black control decks. Disfigure is a 1 black instant that says target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. I'm not 100% sure if this will be played over cut down in most situations, but Disfigure adding to the suite of 1 mana black removal spells, it definitely makes black more powerful in some cases. Overwhelming Remorse is really interesting to me. It's 5 mana, 4 generic, 1 black. Instant. Spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Exile target creature or planeswalker. So this could be played, you know, standard, Pioneer, I mean, maybe even modern, like Dredge or something possibly, where you fill your graveyard with creatures very quickly. And that's like already a part of your strategy. This is not a build around, but this could totally be put into decks that normally have a lot of creatures in their graveyard. And just having a 1 mana instant exile anything is super good. I have no shell for it in my head immediately, but I could see it being played. So those are the black cards in the Brothers War that I believe are going to make a splash in Constructed. Let me know if I missed anything, or let me know what you thought down in the comments. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on other social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.